Okay, that's the recording started. Well, do you want a sediment?
Roll call, just quick roll call, just to make sure everyone has managed to find their way back to their computers.
Okay. So Councillor Gifford.
Yes.
Councillor Grant. Councillor Grant, are you here?
Yes,
Yeah.
present.
Councillor Georgie? No. Councillor Keating?
Yeah, present.
Councillor Launchy?
Yes, present.
Councillor Mason?
Present.
Councillor McHale?
Present.
Councillor Reid?
Present.
Councillor Smith?
Present.
Councillor White?
Present.
Councillor Georgie?
Sorry, I was here, but I forgot to unmute. Present.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's everybody in terms of councillors.
Okay, thank you very much. So moving on then to item 7 on our agenda. So planning permission in principle for residential development and associated infrastructure phases 2 and 3, and full planning permission for erection of 158 dwelling houses and associated infrastructure phase 1 at land to the west of Hillbrae Way, Newmarket. So this is one of these hybrid applications that we're starting to see coming through. On this, we also have a request to speak from Calla Holmes. Are we happy to hear the representations?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. In which case, Robert, I believe you're speaking on behalf, so just wait a second, we'll call you forward and we'll get to that part of the proceedings. So welcome in the meantime. And first of all, we'll hear from the planning officer.
We'll hear from Councillor Miller first, who's got a hand. I think
it's only because I missed him off the list because he wasn't here before.
Yeah.
So, is that what it was? Just let us know you're here.
Yes, I didn't hear
Yes.
my name, just confirming.
No, it's my fault. It's because you weren't here the last time. Sorry about that.
Okay.
It's my fault.
That's right. I don't want to miss out. Okay, in which case, Helen, you want to talk us through this report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as the Chair introduced, the application is for residential development at a site known as Hillbrae Way in Newmarket, which is obviously the hatched area on the first slide. And it is shown in red on slide 2. The site is just over 15 hectares and is to the north of the centre of Newmarket. This is the usual aerial view of the site. So to the north, we have Kingseat Road to the north. On this smaller western boundary, we have Station Road and we have some houses here overlooking the site. Along the southern boundary, there is a burn, a stream running along here, and we have the Barrett's housing estate, existing housing estate there. And as we work our way up along the eastern boundary, it is Hillbrae Way, and there is one residential property here. Land is currently in agricultural use and the land rises to the north. So at the top sort of section of the site here is on a higher gradient than the bottom part. So before I discuss the proposal, as Councillor Gifford introduces, is what we call a hybrid application. So it does have 2 component parts. We haven't actually seen, oh, sorry, wrong slide. This is the first one that the Geary team has actually dealt with. So it'll be the first one presented to the area committee as well. So it has 2 parts. So the first part is what's being referred to as phase 1, and that is the pink part on this slide. And for this part, full planning permission is being sought for 158 dwellings. So for this part, we have got detailed drawings, we've got detailed layouts, house designs, landscaping, all the usual things that the planning service would want to see for a full planning application. So for the other 2 elements of the site, which is the green and the blue parts, planning permission in principle is sought for those 2 areas, and these are referred to as phases 2 and 3 in the committee report. So for this part, the applicant is only seeking the planning permission in principle is okay for these bits. They have given us an indicative development number for those parts, which again unusual for planning permission in principle. You generally get a feel for the amount of dwellings proposed. So for phase 2, which is the green bit, it is 106 dwellings, and for phase 3, which is the blue, it is 54 dwellings. But those figures are indicative, but it gives us a number of the an indication of the likely development numbers that can be achieved. So with full planning permission for phase 1 and the indicative numbers given for phases 2 and 3, that would result in a total of 318 dwellings across the whole site. As I said, it is quite a newish concept. They don't get many of these applications, but it's totally fine for the application to come in this form, and it basically allows the developer to accelerate the delivery of phase 1 first, and it just gets an opportunity to reassurances and lock in developer obligations at this stage. So bear with me. The majority of the presentation will just focus on phase 1 because that is the part of the site that we have the definitive layout for. So this is phase 1, and as I said, for 158 homes, which does include 34 affordable homes as well. The affordable homes are basically on the sort of southern boundary, the ones that are shaded blue in this area here. There are 2 points of vehicle access of Hillbrae Way. So there's one at this point here and one further up. And these make use of existing points of access already in place. The road network goes into the site on a sort of westerly direction. And then you can see it sort of takes the form of a grid-like layout with obviously houses facing onto the street. There is a suds pond located in the southeast corner, which is the lowest part of the site. And there is landscaping and open space provided throughout. There are 2 footbridges over the burn on the southern boundary. Difficult to make out, but these sort of black rectangles here, I've got a footbridge there and one further up here, and they will connect into a footpath that runs along within the proposed layout along the southern boundary. Majority of homes have in curtilage car parking, but there are a few of the affordable homes up here that have a sort of courtyard type arrangement, and obviously all homes have their own private garden grounds. So this slide shows again for phase 1 only the open space provision, and I will return to that in later on in my presentation, but that shows the 40% requirement for phase 1 being met. Obviously the green space is the open space. This plan is quite busy, so apologies, but it does show the proposed landscaping again for phase 1 only, because that's the only part that we know the detail for. Next few slides just show a few of the house types. There are 16 different house types proposed, finished in a dry dash render in off-white, grey roof tiles, precast stone, and windows and doors are to be grey. Some of the dwellings on the corner plots have been amended to include what we call dual frontages, so just adds a bit of interest and natural surveillance to the layout. And slide 12 again is quite busy, but gives an idea of the sort of street elevations and some of the variety within the street. So key matters for area committee are in the usual 6.1 of your report, but I'll start with the principal first. So site is to 2 LDP allocations. And again, apologies for the size of this image here, but this shows the whole of the application site. And you can see the majority of the site is covered by OP1, which is the pink sort of shaded area. And the LDP allocates that space for 340 homes. The green area, which is R2, is land reserved for a primary school. So the hybrid application is essentially wanting to develop housing across the whole of the site. As can be seen on this larger image, the R2 allocation, so the land reserved for the school, has been overlaid on top of the developer's proposed layout. And it can be seen that in phase 1, around half of that R2 land will accommodate dwellings and will also accommodate some of the open space. The remainder of that R2 land sits in phase 2, which would be coming forward in further submissions if this application were to be approved. So the planning history is detailed at paragraph 216. The summary of which is that the site does benefit from an extant approval for the whole site for residential development. Work has started on this, and if they wished, the developer could continue with that approval and continue to build on site. It is also noted in the planning history that an application from 2021 removed clauses from the Section 75 agreements that were linked to older approvals. The specific clauses were the clauses that were removed meant that the need to pay developer obligations towards a new school were removed, as was the need to reserve this land for a new primary school. The removal of these clauses was agreed by Area Committee decision in June 2021, and it was agreed as a departure at that point. Wait of beginning that decision. Whilst not set out in your report, when these applications to remove the Section 75 clauses was determined back in June 2021, the proposed Aberdeenshire Local Development Plan 2020, as it was known, was already at examination stage, and as such could not be amended to take into account those 2021 decisions. So that's why we have the situation why the R2 allocation remains in our current LDP, because the previous planning decisions happened too late in the LDP examination process to get those removed. So just a little bit of background for members as well. Continuing with principle, it remains the case today as it did in 2021 when those Section 75 clauses were removed, that there is no need for a new school here. Pupils from this and other new housing sites in Newmarket and the catchment area can be accommodated in the existing educational estate. And education has not objected to this application. So having regard to the planning history, that extant consent, the residential LDP allocation for the majority of the site, and the fact that there is no longer a need for a school, the principle of residential development across the whole of the site is acceptable, but that is obviously subject to other matters being satisfied. It is recommended that Area Committee support the principle of 100% housing at this site as a suitable departure. It should also be noted that the developer has submitted a reviewed master plan. Whilst welcomed, I must stress that this is purely for information only. The LDP allocation text for OP1 only requires a master plan review if work has not started on the site before the adoption of LDP 23. So its works have started in July 2022 ahead of the adoption of LDP 23, there is no need to have reviewed the master plan. So looking at typical matters, let's go back to slide 5. Yep. As I said, given this is a hybrid application, we only know the layout for phase 1. We only know what that actually is. Details for phase 2 and 3 would follow with future applications, and that's the norm for a planning permission in principle. So this slide shows the detailed layout for phase 1 only. It's not similar to previous approvals. As I said, it has 2 points of access off Hillbray Way, grid-like pattern with houses facing the street, and there are these road sort of links here to the north that you would anticipate would link into future phases. Range of house types, and as I said, there are 39 affordable homes also provided within the mix, which meets our 25% affordable home requirement. It will be necessary for future phases to also provide that 25%, and this would be built into any legal agreement. So the planning service is satisfied the proposed siting, layout and design is appropriate and embraces the quality of good placemaking. Noting there are houses surrounding the site, consideration needs to be given to residential amenity. And we can only assess that insofar as phase 1. There are existing houses to the south along here on, I think it's Muller, sorry if I've said that wrong, but on that road, Crescent, and on Blackbraes Way. So they're in the existing sort of Barrett home development. As I said, there's a burn running along this boundary as well. But the development does essentially create a separation distance between the existing houses and the proposed of between 28 and 45 metres. It's also noted that there will be some tree planting within the application site here as well. So that relationship is considered to be acceptable. As I said, there is one house up here on Hillbray Way, which basically is orientated to face south, as you would expect, and that has a distance of 42 metres from the side of that house to the new houses in the application site. So again, wouldn't be impacted by any overlooking or overshadowing. As I said, the layout includes 2 footbridges on the southern boundary, which would link into existing footpath connections. So the one here, just where my laser is, that connects into an existing footpath between numbers 39 and 49 Muller Crescent, and it kind of links up with a path at the back of the cemetery as well. So that links into existing footpath connections. Bridge number 2, which is the one up here, you'd come over the bridge and you'd basically land, let's say, in an area of amenity space, which I'll show on a photograph in a moment. Is anticipated that a footpath will be formed through this amenity area to link with the road network there. These footbridges obviously create a connection between the existing housing estate and connections to Newmarket itself, but it's felt that they will not result in a loss of amenity to the residents in existing homes that reside close to where these connections are to be formed. So on the whole, the planning service feels that residential amenity is acceptable. Future phases, so phases 2 and 3, when they come forward, we would need to go through the same process and look at how that layout relates to existing homes. So that would be a future assessment, if you like. So continuing with matters relating to the layout, we obviously need to look at open space, landscaping and biodiversity. Turning to this slide here, Phase 1 has a site area of 8.72 hectares, and therefore to meet the 40% requirement, this phase needs to include 3.38 hectares of open space. It does provide 3.5 and therefore meets our open space requirements. It is judged to be well distributed. It has a range of functions. It includes footpaths, orchard planting and play spaces, and there are less formal areas up here to the west as well. This would be a less formal area for open space. It will be necessary for the next application for phases 2 and 3 to also demonstrate that each phase provides the 40% as well, and this is built into the condition. With respect to landscaping, again, this is the detail in phase 1. There's a large area of amenity space here that is open space. This would be planted with meadow mixed grasses, and you can see there's a sort of mowed path going through it. There would also be trees planted in there. There are low hedges to be planted along the front curtilage boundaries for properties. There is a landscape belt here on the eastern boundary. So that creates a buffer with the road and obviously a welcome entrance into the site. Footpaths are provided along here, and there's going to be some orchard planting along in this part as well. And in the Suds Pond area here, there'll be species that are better suited to potentially wetter conditions. Linked landscape, and we also have biodiversity. A biodiversity net gain assessment has been carried out. That's been carried out for the whole site and is summarised in the report. Through the landscape scheme, which does include planting of native hedgerows and meadow mixes, there will be a significant uplift in biodiversity units across phase 1. Hedgehog highways, bird and bat boxes also contribute to delivering biodiversity net gain across the site. Like everything else, will need to be submitted for phases 2 and 3, which will need to demonstrate adequate open space provision for those phases, as well as landscaping plans that demonstrate links to areas of open space and continuation of footpath for a coherent response across the whole of the site. So for phase 1, planning services content that this demonstrates appropriate open space, landscaping and biodiversity uplift, which obviously demonstrate compliance with our development plan. Future phases will need to be secured by conditions, and obviously will need to be of the same quality as that submitted for phase 1. On matters of transportation, there's existing points of access there which will be made use of. Series of internal roads, and there are quite a lot of pedestrian routes through the site as well, which obviously welcomed. Transport assessment has been submitted, as well as other technical reports, all of which have been considered by colleagues in road development who have no objection. The detailed layout for phase 1 is acceptable from a highway safety point of view, and all homes are to be provided with appropriate car parking spaces, which are mainly in curtilage. The site is well connected with the access to the centre of Newmarket. It's also well connected for Martin and Buchan Way, which runs up to at the top of the site. Traffic calming measures are proposed on Hillbray Way here, which includes hatched markings similar to those that are on Hillbray Way to the south of the site. As far as phase 1 is concerned, as I said, it's acceptable. Further apps for phase 2 and 3 will include more details, and proposed junctions with existing infrastructure will need to be assessed in due course. The layout provides links to existing road networks, and it does also provide access to core paths and public transport closer to Newmarket. Matters relating Drainage and flood risk are also acceptable, have been subject to appropriate consultations with colleagues, and conditions are recommended to secure the implementation of details relating to phase 1 and flood risk management, such as finished floor levels. And further details relating to phase 2 and 3 will need to be secured. So to conclude, before I go on to my photos, it is the case the site has an extensive history. It does benefit from that ex-ante consent that can be continued to be implemented. The removal of clauses embedded in the previous legal agreements also mean that there's been an acceptance that the R2 land is no longer needed for that purpose, and that was an area committee decision. Given the timing of 21 planning decisions and the submission of LDP 2023 for examination, there is no opportunity to change the LDP to reflect those 2021 decisions, and that's why we have a situation where we have this R2 land in our current LDP. Aside from the point of departure, the principle of developing housing at an allocated housing site is obviously acceptable. Siting layout and design, landscaping, open space, and the drainage infrastructure and the SUDs all demonstrate key placemaking principles that will result in a well-integrated development that will bring a range of homes to Newmarket, including 39 affordable homes, those in housing need. All technical matters have been addressed with the submission of necessary reports, appropriate consultation, and the inclusion of conditions. So given it is a hybrid application, it's recommended to members that full planning permission be granted for phase 1 and planning permission in principle be granted for the remainder of the site for phases 2 and 3. So just a few photographs. So just working my way around the site from the top. So this slide shows the intersection of Station Road where it runs along the western boundary of the site. So that is Station Road going in there. This is looking in the opposite direction. So we're now standing in Station Road and we're looking at the junction with Kingseat Road. And this is the application site here. Station Road at the top of the site. This would be in the future phases. It's not directly immediately adjacent to phase 1. And these are the homes in Station Road looking onto the application site. This photograph here shows the land in between properties in Maymuller Road, where the proposed footpath linking to the footbridge would cross the burn. So the burn runs along here. You would have a footpath, sorry, a footbridge, and then there would be a footpath formed through here to link with Maymuller Road. This is the footpath where the other footbridge, so footbridge number 1, links into this existing footpath. So here I'm just standing on the southern site boundary. Yeah, probably near the cemetery and looking across the site. And then I've moved around the site here. So now standing on Hillbray Way, which is eastern site, looking west. And on Hillbray Way there. So I'm looking down the road, application sites here. I can just make out the single property that I referred to earlier. And you can sort of see the change in levels. The land is dropping towards the south. Similar photo, just opposite direction. So I'm looking up Hillbray Way. Obviously, the application site's in here. Standing in the site and Kingseat Road's here. You can just see the sort of telegraph poles making out that road there. And finally, this is from Google Earth, so it's slightly different agriculture in the site at that point. But yes, it's top of the road, top of the site, Kingseat Road, and you're looking down to the whole of the site there. So I've obviously outlined in the report the recommendation, which is for approval as a suitable departure. And yes, it is a hybrid. So if members are minded, then the application would result in full planning permission for 158 homes on phase 1, and then planning permission in principle for phases 2 and 3. So that concludes quite a lengthy presentation, and obviously happy to take questions as and when required. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Helen. Your sound was breaking up a wee bit, but I don't think
Oh,
we missed
sorry.
anything. I don't think we missed anything critical. Okay, colleagues,
Let's hope
open
not.
up for questions here. It's a bit strange. Glenn, your career is number 2, but you're top of my list, so
Councillor Launchy is number 1.
his hand's not showing on my screen for some reason. So anyway, Dominic. We'll
Yeah,
take
thank you.
Number 1. What do you want?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Helen, for that comprehensive presentation. I'll come back on the slide 13, which shows R2, which was reserved for, as you stated, a primary school. And if I remember well, there was a nursery as well, way before, which was proposed for that part. Now that all of that is redundant and surplus to requirement, am I to understand that developer obligations will be due, of course, on the whole site? Thank you.
I think Helen.
Thank you.
Yeah, you go, Helen.
Thank you,
Because-
Councillor Launchy.
Because basically, initially, of course, a developer building a primary school and or a nursery would not have been liable to developer obligations. So since it's not the case, thank you for confirming that developing this site will be subject to developer obligations.
Yes, developing the site is subject to developer obligations, so they are summarised in the report. But to be clear, those developer obligations do not include any payment towards education.
Oh, all right.
There's no need for a school. Any pupils from this development can be accommodated in the existing infrastructure. So we only seek developer obligations when we're trying to mitigate something. So there isn't a shortage, so we shouldn't be seeking obligations for education, and that's been subject to discussions between the developer and the developer obligations team. But there are a suite of developer obligations, but they do not seek contributions for education.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Councillor Reid, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and thanks, Helen, for the very detailed presentation. I have quite a few questions, so I will just take them one by one if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, the first one touches on what Councillor Lange has just said about developer obligations for the primary school, etc. You said that we're not seeking any for education, but there is a unique situation or an immediate situation in Newmarket with the situation of the academy. So currently going through a review whereby Aberdeen City Council is no longer going to take pupils to Dice Academy. We're going to either have to put them to Old Meldrum or to I think it's Inverurie.
Yeah.
Now, that's not concluded. Were that to say there is no capacity at at Old Meldrum, and there is currently enough capacity for the pupils that are coming from Dice Academy. But if you add into the mix 318 houses, surely there might. Has this been looked at? Does that question the academy capacity first and foremost?
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Yes, the potential sort of rezoning has been factored in. So I haven't been party to these discussions, but the developer obligations team will factor in rezoning capacity, and that is the conclusion that there isn't need for developer obligations for education, but that does reflect the current situation and the potential planned rezoning. I would just remind members that this site has been in the LDP, I think, since maybe 2012. So it is a very historical allocation, and those sort of future projections have been factored into the comments that we've got back from education. But definitely the rezoning has been factored into the developer obligations discussions.
Okay, now thanks, Helen. I needed clarity on that one because it's a very contentious issue,
Yes.
and it'll be one of the first things that we are asked about. A second one's quite a straightforward one. You said that there's 39 affordable houses. There's 100. I think you said there's 158 houses. 25% is 39.5. Not being pedantic, just want an assurance that obviously that 0.5 will be rolled forward into the phase 2 or phase 3, etc. That just won't be lost.
Yes, you are correct. So good maths, but yes, there is a 0.5 and there will be a developer contribution, I think, for the half house, but that is detailed in the report somewhere. But yeah, it's not been lost. It is factored in.
That's fine. I must have missed that in the report. Okay, the next one is the open space. Very contentious here. So you said that overall phase 1 is 8.72 hectares. 3.3 is required. 3.5 is provided. But in the report, it says that the SUDS area is included in the open space. Now, that looks like a rather substantial SUDS area. Can I please have the figures for how big the SUDS is? Because, as you recall, at Kintore Town Park, although developers can incorporate it, we can also refuse it on those grounds because that land is not usable as an open space when it's underwater. And as things are going just now, it's more and more underwater, and the SUDs that we have in our area, in other developments, aren't usable.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I do not have a figure for what the SUDS area is. To my mind, our planning advice on open space says that we can include SUDs within an open space calculation, and that is the figure that I've presented in my report. I have not excluded the SUDS area.
Okay, so the just to be clear, the 3.5 provided, does that include the SUDs or does it not include the SUDs?
It does include the SUDs. So this image on slide 6, the SUDs is down in this wee corner here. And you can see all the green area is what's been included in the open space calculation, and that does include the SUDS area, which is here.
Okay. Is it possible to get that figure? Because I can't determine this without that figure, because it's crucial as far as like an open space area goes. You need to be able to use the open space. So first and foremost, can we get that figure at some point before we determine this?
Sorry, Helen, how are you funding that? When the other open space that Helen described is not usable, it's trees and bushes and shrubs and all sorts of planting. You're not going to be walking through it. I don't know, what's the definition of usable?
I mean, all I can say, obviously we've had this discussion several times, is that our appendix says that we can include open space. We can include SUDs in an open space calculation, and that's what I've done on historical calculations, and that's the position I've taken here. I can get a figure for you, but I'm not going to say I can sit and calculate what that is during this discussion.
Okay, well, I don't know how other members feel, but I know that we refused an application based on the SUDs being provided in the town park in Kintore, and then they came back with a new development which didn't include it and met our requirements, and that was perfectly legal. I think it was subject to an appeal, and the appeal they lost the appeal, etc. So this is, for me anyway, it's crucial.
If I'm happy to get the figure, but I probably need to adjourn. I can't take questions and work that out at the same time. Would be a bit beyond me, but I'll leave it with the chair to decide.
Okay, I'm going to put a pin in that one, Glenn. I'm not entirely sure where you're going with that, but it's not going to be straightforward to get the answer.
We might have to ask the applicant when they come forward.
Yeah, okay. That's just a suggestion. The applicant may have that figure, or they can work it out while we're waiting for these questions. Is there anything else, Glenn?
Yeah, there's quite a few, Jim, if you don't mind. But on that point, it is perfectly acceptable for us to get that figure. We've done it in other applications. It's never been an issue before. Helen, I'm not having this is nothing personal. This is just completely professional. I mean, if I'm going to determine this, I need to know how much of that area of open space is actually SUDs. So if we can even take a 10-minute recess at some point to work it out or whatever. But moving on from that, I notice that it appears to be there's no play park here at all. So that's 318 houses, and I might have missed this, but I couldn't see a play park. It seems to be open space with trees and all that stuff for people to wander about. But that's a lot of family houses and no play park. Is that correct?
It's not correct, Councillor Reid.
Okay,
So it's
thank you.
difficult to make out, but yeah, this is quite a busy plan. But you see this sort of 8 shape here. There would be play space provided in
Okay.
there. So for phase 1, as I said, we know what's coming forward, and the conditions are worded as such that for the future phases we would also require additional play space to be provided for them. That has been discussed with the applicant. If you're sort of living up here, then to sort of trot down to a play space down here is quite a bit of a trek. So the thought is that future phases would also deliver play space as well. But we've definitely got it in phase 1 in this area.
That's excellent. That's a proper park with equipment, etc., not just a place to
Yes,
walk
yeah.
around. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, thank you for that. I may have got this wrong as well. So the Suds area sits to the, well, basically to the right of the picture or the east of the picture. The burn sits to the south of that. So, and this whole development sits on a hill. So what, I'm just want some assurance that our flood team can maybe tell us, is the water runs off to the left of it or to the west of it. It's going to run into the, I would imagine, it's going to run into the burn and then flow down. And it appears to the layperson, e.g. myself, that it misses the suds. But I'm sure, that's been looked at. I just maybe get some clarification.
It may be something the applicant can answer with in more confidence, but all I can say is that our own flood risk and coastal protection team have reviewed the layout, and there's been flood risk assessments and drainage assessments submitted. They did have some comments about sort of finished floor levels, but they didn't comment about that particular aspect. So I would say that there's no objection to that particular aspect of the proposal, but perhaps the applicant can answer that more technical question.
Okay, and last one for Helen on just now is there's a huge issue in Newmarket about previous housing estates whereby the some of the open space that was supposed to be maintained has been sold off as parcels of land, etc. I'm fairly certain, as most developments we get now, it's all factored and it'll all go under one factoring company that will maintain it on behalf of the residents. But it's a big issue. They're constantly contacting our landscape services about these neglected areas right through Newmarket. So can you just confirm it will go, there's an agreement, it goes to one factor and they maintain it and they cannot then sell the land off to somebody who's absent?
Again, maybe the applicant, my understanding is that this would be factored, but what happens beyond that is not for the planning service through our conditions to control. Obviously, if land is getting sold off and used by a private homeowner for extension of their private curtilage or something like that, then as we know, that requires a change of use application, and we can assess that as it comes forward. But that's the only reassurance I can give, that if communal spaces are sort of taken by a private homeowner, then they should be applying for a change of use, and we can assess that as and when.
Okay, no, I'll ask it of the applicant, but it's actually not that. It's more, I don't know how it actually happened. It happened about 25 years ago, whereby they've sold off, the land has been auctioned off and someone's bought it as an opportunity kind of thing.
Okay.
And and now loads of areas are just left neglected and residents are actually having to go there and strim it themselves, etc., because the council are cutting back, obviously, and it's not their responsibility. But I'll ask the applicant, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, go. Run out of questions, Glenn, yeah?
For now, yeah, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Next on the list then is Councillor White, Judy.
Yep, morning everyone, thank you. Helen, I was going to ask about sort of 20-minute neighbourhood aspects. I think there's a pavement part of the way around, is it Hilbury Way? Can you tell me if there is a pavement around the exterior of all the site, or will there be one? Because I'm thinking this looks a little bit like the road that goes round. I'm thinking of Old Meldrum, where there's a a pavement all the way around that, and it's quite a popular walking route. So I just wondered about connectivity round the outside the site. I appreciate there will be routes through the site, but what the plans are for round about the site, and access to bus stops. I don't know if you know that, or if that's something for the roads development team to ask about.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. And then the other questions were about safe routes to school, if there has been an assessment done of that. And again, as we've heard, the secondary schooling aspect, where there might be bus stops for that, and provision of healthcare was going to be my other question in relation to 20-minute neighbourhoods and access to facilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I suppose given it's a hybrid, I could probably only answer with certainty about phase 1. So we know there is sort of footpath connections in here that link into Hillbray Way at that point. There is, as I showed on that photograph, there is a footpath going. Sorry, I've got my roads wrong. Hillbray Way at the top here, there's footpath connections, and you can obviously link into the Formartine and Buchan route up there. So there's connections around the site, but the actual sort of specifics of connecting to that, we don't know at this phase, at this stage. I can only reassure you that obviously there's links here to the footpath connections in phase 1. And we've got these footbridges as well that will provide useful connections to the existing housing estate and the sort of amenities in more central Newmarket. There has been a safe routes to school assessment that's included in the transport assessment, and the transport assessment also details sort of access to bus routes and public transport as well. So I think the majority of those are actually more central in Newmarket itself. So it probably is, I don't know, more like sort of 400-metre walk to those from this part of the site. So connections available, they will evolve as the scheme evolves, and certainly the top phases the top phases here will perhaps give a strengthened opportunity to link into the cycle routes and the footpath routes, but it is a sort of long established allocation, and it's something that roads development didn't object to in terms of any sort of access to sustainable modes of transport. Sorry, Councillor White, was it a healthcare element as well, did you?
Yeah, I just wondered about local services and so on. So, you know, healthcare, it does say in 4.13 that Aberdeen City has significant concerns in regards to the provision of workforce in the area, and wish it to be known that staffing of NHS services is very challenging in the current financial climate. So, because it would be Dice Health Centre. So, I mean, these are all considerations for, you know, living well locally and 20-minute neighbourhood facilities. But it's, yeah, thank you. There's probably nothing else you're able to comment on that on, but other than what's in the report.
It does seem to be a common consultation response from NHS Grampian. I suppose it's just highlighting existing staffing issues, and yes, we can seek developer obligations, but they would only help with the sort of infrastructure and expanding facilities. We obviously can't assist with, you know, staffing issues. There's a limit to what those developer obligations can do, but it does seem to be a common response we are receiving from the NHS at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Judy. Councillor Keating, the next. David.
Thank you. Apologies, folks. I have a few, 8. But a couple of people have got ahead of me with some of them, but I'll start where Judy finished on the health provision under 413. That's wording I've never seen before, because normally it says NHS confirms capacity. This one just says, well, everything's under strain and we can't get enough people. So is this, I mean, I know you said we're getting a similar response before, but is this actually less of a supportive response than we have seen in the past? Because as it's been extracted in 413, I think quite correctly, it identifies the fact we're really struggling to find GPs in Garioch. So I just wonder, Helen, is this actually a standard NHS, we have no problems, carry on response? My first question. I'll take them one at a time, I think.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Keating. We did get this response on the other Newmarket site on the Garioch Road one. So I think it is becoming more commonplace, and I suppose it's just putting a marker down for the decision maker that there are existing issues, which I'm sure we're all well aware of in terms of resourcing and staffing. But the developer obligations, yes, we're seeking those, but that there's a limit to what they can mitigate against, which what I'd said there, it could be mitigating against. They should be going towards, increasing the capacity of a surgery by funding its extension, for example. It wouldn't be appropriate to use those developer obligations to increase a workforce. So there's an acknowledgement, I think, in the response that there is an issue. They are putting down a marker, but we're all aware of the limitations that any planning decision can do to seek to address those. But appreciate, as Councillor White said, that it is about the 20-minute neighbourhood and delivering those services within a reasonable sort of buffer of your home as well. But that's probably all I can say on that one.
I may have to explore with somebody later when we get to the discussion, but certainly I'm not expecting Cala to produce 5 GPs, by the way. I do understand that's not on their core competences. This probably is just for my information, but we've had many planning applications where it said they've started, and in this case it was they've dug a foundation, they've excavated a foundation trench. And I don't know if that was the fine trench you showed us on slide 24. Is this massively limited work required to be done to having started a planning application? Is that a ruling from the chief planner or from a reporter, or is this just Aberdeenshire's interpretation of what starting looks like? Because I'll be honest, I think to most people on the well-known Clapham omnibus, excavating a trench doesn't really constitute starting a development, not if it's then been sitting empty for 3 years. So is this something that's sent down to us, or is this an Aberdeenshire interpretation?
Thank you, Councillor Keating. I suppose it's one of those topics, it's quite a grey area, but what is a commencement? It's set out in the Act what defines a material operation, and there are a number of bullet points, which I have got on my screen bizarrely, but any work or construction in the course of the erection of a building, the digging of a trench, which is contained the foundation. So it does actually have some quite detailed things.
That's fine.
Does, yeah.
That's okay. You've answered my
I'm quite
question.
surprised by, but yeah,
it's come
it
from
does
on
say
high.
that.
It's come from on high.
It's part of the Act, so yeah, I think it has been a point of discussion between the planning service and the applicant over a number of years, but I think that discussion point has gone. We've accepted there's a commencement.
No, that's fine. So 629, the affordable housing mix was discussed with the housing team. Excellent. Always glad to hear about discussions. Were the housing team happy with the proposed mix that's been put in this planning application, which is more interesting to me?
Okay, yeah, fair point. Yes, in those discussions, they did conclude that they are happy. There is a mix, and I think there's a couple of bungalows in there as well. And there was a bit of a longer discussion about making sure those homes were appropriately sized for sort of disabled.
Future-proofing, no, I saw that.
Yes, that's it. Yes, so yes, they were happy with what is being proposed.
Now we'll come to the next one. I think Councillor Grant has mentioned this in previous applications. The affordable housing is essentially in one big block in the south. And I know there's some thinking that says affordable housing to be an integrated place should be spread around. Have we had any conversation with the developers about why they're all grouped in one area?
Thank you, Councillor Keating. Yeah, just going back to that slide, as I said, it's the sort of blue marked properties are the affordables. Yep, they're all grouped in one area. There's different sort of thoughts about this, whether they should be pepper potted and just distributed about. So I suppose in terms of the whole site, we will get probably 3 aspects of affordable. So there'll be some pepper potting, but when we approach on this discussion, we're often told that this is the preference of the social landlord. This is their preference, that the homes are grouped together for sort of maintenance and management, which we obviously give weight to that. So I appreciate there's maybe two schools of thought here. This is what's been tabled. Personally, don't see a problem with that. I suppose they are surrounded by other house types, and there is a similarity between the sort of materials and the design of the homes as well. So I wouldn't anticipate that they would appear overly different from some of the market housing as well. But I appreciate the two different thoughts on the right approach for that delivery.
That's fine, Helen. And certainly we have been told in the past that social housing landlords prefer compensation for their servicing. I think all I'd be interested in knowing is if somebody sent us a letter in 2007 and said that, and we've just constantly moved it forward, if actually the current one is writing that as well. But leave that for the moment.
Okay. Yep.
Just an observation from, I think Glenn raised it about the secondary, the academy school. I think it's true to say, because I'm chair of ECS, that's definitely still under consultation, and we're working with the community to see what is the right answer. So it's no different change. You're quite correct. The current thought is the space in Inverurie, but that is subject to a lot of discussion, and therefore I just wouldn't like anything or anybody to take away from this discussion here that we have settled on Inverurie Academy, because we're still consulting. Nearly there, honestly. Then at 6.85, the developer obligations say we need money for community facilities. And at 6.88, we no longer require community facilities under LDP Op 1. So is that compatible, or is there a bit of a contradiction in there?
What did you say, 685? Oh, bear with me. Oh, okay. So the historical sort of LDP allocations did say 340 homes and community facilities.
Right.
So that reference to community facilities was removed with the new iteration of the LDP. So I think I'm probably referring to that.
Right.
But yeah, the developer obligations does require contributions to community facilities, so it may be that they would fund or go towards improvements to, I don't know, a hall or something in Newmarket, or more general things.
Okay.
But there's not a requirement for something on site anymore.
So 6.85 will take precedence. We will be looking for DOs for.
Oh yes,
facilities.
definitely. Yes.
That's fine. Okay, we now get into the conditions. You always love it when we go there. So on condition 10.102P6.
Right, okay.
It's on page 124.
What did you say?
10.102P6. It's on page 124 if you've got the full pack there.
Yeah, okay.
It's aims and objectives of management. Of what?
Oh, okay. That is probably standard wording from colleagues, but it would be the aims and objectives of the biodiversity enhancement plan, I would assume.
Okay. Again, just for the developer, apart from anything else, it'd be kind of good if we could be clear.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'd be happy to delegate that as per. Final one, honestly, final one. You mentioned, I think you called it the second bridge, and it goes across amenity land on the other side, and you show us a picture and it's all grass, but you anticipated a path would go in. Can we condition that?
Yes, we can, and it is in there as a condition.
Is it? Oh, I missed that. I apologise. Oh, well done. Sorry, I'll hold my hand up if you've got it in there somewhere. I just didn't see it. I'll accept that if it's conditioned. That's great. End of my questions.
Okay.
For looking, but it is definitely in there.
Okay, that's fine.
Very good.
Thank you.
Having said that, that land doesn't belong to the applicant.
No point.
It's in as condition 16. So the land is actually owned by the council, and there has been discussions between the developer and the council. The council are accepting of the principle of this, but we didn't have any details. So the condition 16 requires details of that and requires details of an agreement between the developer and the landowner, being the council, which I've seen communication advising that that would be agreeable to the council as landowner.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Race, Trevor.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, it was just the school rules. I noticed that it was said that with the school rules was at the current level of school rules, it's at 75% capacity. Now after this development, it's going to be 90%. But does that include the Causduke Road development?
It would include all planned development in the LDP. So when the LDP is allocating sites and education are commenting, it will look at them all together, so that these roles will take into account, or the forecasts will take into account allocated sites and sites that have consent.
Yeah, it was another thing was the drainage. We have every time you expand an extra estate or whatever, there's an increase in runoff. Now in Newmarket, it seems to collect around about Pinky Road area. Has this all been looked at all?
Yes, Councillor. Well, there's been a drainage impact assessment. There have been flood risk assessments. All have been submitted. All have been considered by the relevant experts in that field. Generally, they've said, well, they have said no objection, but they have recommended conditions, which is sort of factored into the report before you. So yes, that has been covered as a material consideration.
Yeah, the last thing was when I saw this, I looked at the LDP to see what was in, and of course there was the R2 there. Now this is 2026. Did you say this came out in 2021 and we still haven't updated the LDP?
Still working on it.
Yes, I mean, I haven't detailed that in the report because I didn't have that information to hand at the time, but I did just sort of say in the beginning of my presentation, I'll just get the wording back up. So when the decisions were made back in June 2021 to remove those legal agreements, the local development plan had already gone to examination stage, because that went to examination in March 21. So that was before we made our decisions to remove those clauses. And when the LDP has gone to examination stage, there's no longer an opportunity to update it or change it to reflect decisions made a few weeks after it went to examination. So it's just a case of the timing and the syncing just didn't mean that the new LDP was able to remove that R2 allocation, so that's why it's still in. But that isn't in the report, but it's just information that I obtained.
Yeah, it's just been helpful if the LDP was updated.
Well, I suppose it's updated every 5 years, but sometimes I think the lead into the new LDPs is so long, isn't it? But yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, that's why it's still in there.
Yeah, okay. Maybe not a discussion in particular too, but I think with hindsight, there is a process through the examination that we could have got in about. But anyway, a discussion for another place. Councillor Keating, you wish to come back?
I wish to come back, and I promise you it's not a question. It's just actually answers Trevor's first question. I wondered the same thing about Newmarket Primary, so I dropped a quick line to the Learning Estates team, who quickly came back to me, and yeah, they have included all the houses. They've used the build-out rate that the developer has advised them, and actually we had a paper, and this is the 24 roles. We had a paper at ECS 2 meetings ago, which shows Newmarket with the build-out rate as advised on all the sites, actually below 90%. So as far as the team have looked at it, and as I have this information, I felt I should share it with my fellow elected members.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And historically, the school road forecasts are remarkably accurate.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, that's good to know. Okay, couple of quick questions from me, since nobody else got their hands up, I don't think. I've got a few for the applicant as well. You mentioned traffic camming on Hillbrae Way coming down off the top bend there in towards the 30 mph area. I didn't think we could put traffic camming of any kind in a 60 mph road area.
Yeah, I could maybe bring Ken in on this if he's still there. But the traffic calming is he can't make it out on this plan. But yeah, there's some hatching and little islands to be brought in. But the road is a 60, I believe, at the moment. The developer will need to submit a traffic regulation order to reduce the speed to 30, and then the traffic calming measures can be installed, because those traffic calming measures are obviously designed for a road of the 30 speed. So condition 27 permits any property from being occupied until such time that the transport regulation order has been made. That would reduce the speed to 30, and that would mean that the traffic calming measures would be appropriate for the road speed. But I don't know if that
Okay, that makes sense. I missed the 30 mph bit. So the speed limit's going to be moved up Hillbrae Way to the top corner, basically, beyond the road junctions.
I don't know if Ken can come in, but that's my understanding, that needs to be in place before the traffic calming measures can be installed.
Yeah, I just had visions of a 60 mph speed bump. That was never going to end well. Okay, is Ken on the call?
Yes.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yes, Helen's got it spot on. There is a requirement for a section 56 to go in for the traffic calming, and that's associated with moving the 30 mph limit out towards the existing junction.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Ken. And second question, in the back of what others have said about the SUDs and drainage and what have you, is the SUDs designed to go into the burn if it is in use and then overtops, or is it going into the drainage system to be processed further downstream?
I don't know the answer, Councillor Gifford. I've not looked at it in that level of technical detail. I mean, maybe the applicant can provide some reassurances. All I can say is that it's been designed appropriately for development of this scale, and that our colleagues have raised no objections to what's before us, but the applicant may be able to give you that detail.
Yeah, okay.
Apologies.
Okay, not a problem. I shall ask them when they come to the table.
Thank you.
So, Ken, you've had your hands up. Do you want to get back in the road thing?
Well, sorry, Councillor Chair, it was we actually reviewed the drainage for this site, and the detention basin feeds discharges into the local burn, and the rate of outflow from the detention basin is equal to the greenfield runoff rate. So there's no increase in runoff from the site. So the capacity of the existing watercourse is deemed adequate for the flows from this site.
Okay. So at worst it'll be the same as it is currently. At best, there'll be a bit of water here from the SUDs until it's discharged.
That's correct.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. I've been extremely lenient.
I'm sorry, yes, I apologise. I hang my head in shame. Actually, Councillor Reid asked first half of the question, but I forgot I'd got a second half. It's on the green spaces, Helen. If I toggle between slide 6 and 7, as far as I can see, 40 junctions are included as green spaces, including a T junction on the main access road in. Now, I'm all for playing football on the street, but really? That's green space? That seems like a road to me. I think I've counted them correctly, and I say I'm having to toggle between the two, so I may have misread it, but I think you can see them. There's they're T junctions on roads. How's that green space?
Just bear with me. Appendix 10 of our LDP sets out what can be considered as open space. So it includes green spaces, and I'm just struggling to find the wording. And it also does include neighbourhood streets, so designed for pedestrian use with minimum on-street parking. So in theory, you could include those areas. If you look at Appendix 10, it does refer to those as being areas for open space. I suppose it's open space is a big term. It doesn't necessarily mean green spaces. It does include SUDs, and if you look at the Appendix 10, it does say, oh, I've lost it again. It does say, as I said, sort of roads where you wouldn't have a lot of traffic, or you what they call sort of home zones as well, can be considered as on-street open space.
Bizarrely, we're not including the streets. We are just including the T-junctions, where I would have thought there might be more cars. But I'm sure we'll be discussing it at the next speakers group. That'll be me. Fine, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, done and dusted. Okay, Helen, we'll give you a rest for a minute.
Okay, thank you.
So we have accepted to request to speak. The two gentlemen from Cala with us, Robert Grant and Ross McLennan. Robert, and you're coming to speak to us.
It's the breach.
Come and join us. I'm not going to repeat the preamble I said twice already. You're here in the room, so you've got 5 minutes to speak. I'll give you a minute's warning, just so you know where you're getting to.
Yep.
Hand over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members. I'm Robert Grant with Cala. Many thanks for allowing us to address you here today. We recognise the positively worded and supportive committee report and its recommendations. We're proposing in front of you a first phase of 158 houses for full planning permission, and 2 further phases for planning permission in principle, on a long-standing and historic LDP allocation, allocated since 2012, on a site, as Helen has alluded to, with a very extensive planning history, including most recently a consent with Scotia in 2022. It's on the basis of that we basically just mirroring what Scotia already have approval for. So a lot of these matters that we've heard about and considered this afternoon and this morning just reflect existing consent. Cala are committed to delivering a mix of 2, 3, 4, 5 bed family, private and affordable homes, much needed for the town and region. 1 bed flats and 2 bed bungalows make up the remainder to provide a range of houses. We would echo the merits of the application and its proposals as you've heard this morning. These are set out outlining positive placemaking principles, open space standards and roads requirements, all suitably addressed. We have, I assure you, gone through all of these elements that you have aired today, public open space, traffic calming, etc., drainage, flood risk. We've gone through them all on this site and many others before. We would be happy to clarify any queries or questions you may have during discussions you may have. We would stress again that our proposals largely mirror the 2022 Scotia consent. Many thanks for your time today and happy to answer questions.
Hey, short and sharp. Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Colleagues, any questions for the applicant? I think there's a few since they were mentioned previously. Councillor, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and thanks for the wee presentation there. It's a quick one just about the factored land that I raised. I don't know if you heard that, and also about the burn and the suds, etc. If you listen to the previous conversation, then you'll know what I'm on about. But I can repeat it if you want.
No, that's fine. Just to take the points in turn then. In terms of the factoring of the amenity areas, that is done through a factoring agreement. So as a standard commonplace. The council don't do that. It's all privately done. So all our homeowners enter into a factoring agreement with a factoring company that we'll appoint, and that's done into perpetuity, which is a word I've never been able to say, and especially not today. So yeah, we have a long-term factoring arrangement. So I assure you that those are not sold off separately, and they're maintained long-term. Does that answer that question?
It does, yes, indeed.
Good stuff. Level of comfort then.
There was another point about the burn and the suds.
Yeah.
It appears that the burn is to the south of the suds, and obviously being on a slope, everything to the, I suppose the west, would run into the burn and then would miss the suds. But I'm a layperson, so obviously this has been looked at by our flood team. But if you can maybe reassure myself and members of the public that it will still be okay.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Essentially, all suds has to comply with the Syria manual, and it's equivalent of pre-development greenfield rates. So anything you do with road surfaces, roof surfaces, etc., have to account for that. So there'll be no faster discharge into any water bodies. So the Suds Pond is in the lowest point of the site. All roof drainage, road drainage, etc., will have overland flow rates. That'll go into the Suds Pond. So nothing will go in additional and over above will go into the burn. It'll all go into the Suds Pond, and there is controlled flow rate. So it basically sits in that pond and generally sort of is released at a slow rate into the burn. So it's pre-development greenfield rates, and it'll be a betterment. At the moment, you'll just have water going on to what is probably a ploughed field. It's running down off the hill straight into the burn. Whereas with us, it's controlled and it's held back and released in a more sort of timely fashion.
Okay, thank you very much for that. One final question, sorry. Would you know how big the Suds area is?
Yes, we've had a check of that. It's roughly about sort of 1,500 square meters.
So if you do it in HA, we've got figures that 3.38 is needed, 3.5 has been provided, but that includes Suds. So what is that in HA, if you don't mind?
It's probably about 0.1.
Okay, so effectively it will only reduce it by 0.1. Okay.
Yeah, it's a small percentage. Myself and Helen have had quite long-term discussions about this because every planning authority treats it slightly differently. One that I used to deal with quite a lot, dealt with it slightly differently. So we had this discussion quite early on in the onset of the application. I live in Inch, and many a snow day is spent in the Suds Pond in the Old Mart Road with sledges or if it's not snowing, bikes. So that's a Suds Pond. It's a proper basin. So if a properly functioning basin works, it'll be dry the lion's share of the time. Shouldn't be any water in it, so you can use it. So our one in Inch has trees in it, has landscaping, it has berms that are particularly attractive to young children with sledges. So it is very functional amenity. It's a high value amenity area that we have in our instance in the one in Inch. So it's one that I can give a first-hand example of. So we sort of contended that it could be a functional space. It can be used, if it's dry, which if it's properly designed and properly maintained, it will be dry. So that was the kind of angle we had of that. And then we were mindful of what the council's guidance note says about Suds being a functional area of open space, to go with landscaping, etc.
Okay, that gives some reassurance, but you can absolutely say that it will only reduce it from 3.5 to 3.49. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, no, that's excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor White, Judy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Robert, for your presentation. I wonder if we could just pick up on my query about connectivity. There is a footway, by the looks of it, round Hilbury Way, which would serve phase 1, but as it goes further round, probably more for, I'm looking at slide 4 at the moment, phase 2, and coming down onto Station Road. I just wondered if there's plans for a footway there connecting all around the perimeter of the site, and also if you could say something about if there's any plans for creating bus stops or where sustainable travel routes might be, either through the development or around the development. Thank you.
Another probably legacy of the LDP 2023 is that Newmarket was going to have a ring road, sort of similar to what you mentioned about Old Meldrum. So there's an area set aside in future phases of 2 and 3, just a small area to be delivered by others of a ring road, and that would again probably have the same active travel links that you alluded to. But phases 2 and 3 aren't really before us today, but we would be showing sort of an orbital path arrangement, most likely in that peripheral open space you just see there to the northern boundaries. It'd be something that we wouldn't want to replicate, or deviate away or detract from the Martin and Buchan Way, but we would have some kind of localized amenity sort of orbital thing, I'd imagine. It's not something we've given a great deal of thought, but there would be in the open space something, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's right. And do you know anything about the bus stops, where they are, or if there's anyone can speak to those?
I know at the moment that the bus route, bus stops on Hilbury Way, as development comes into, I believe there used to be a local bus service. Speaking to people at community events, there used to be a local bus service that went up to King Seat, but that has come away. I think the school bus School bus still goes that way, so I imagine it doesn't go that way.
School bus.
No
walk.
Yes. I probably couldn't comment too much more on that then. I think there's a bus stop in Hillbury Way. If we need any other further bus stops in phases 2 and 3, that's a conversation for later on. And be led by Ken or something.
Yep, that's fine. That's helpful. That's helpful just now. Thank you.
Well, David, you want to come in, but just in the back of Judy's thing, the peripheral pavement, would that also continue down Station Road? Because just now there's a pavement on the west side, but not the east. It's not clear from the drawing. I was trying
Chair, it's one of these things that the phases 2 and 3, we haven't fully designed those up yet. It would probably be something we'd look to do within the open space, and we probably would need to have some kind of formal active travel links. Yes.
So watch this space.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Keating, David.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Well, I'm going to come back on my last question, which is I've done my best looking at this picture, slides 5, 6, and 7. You appear to have included 8 what we call T-junctions, but you haven't included the roads in between, which I think from my understanding from Helen, it actually sounded more like the whole zone of the roads were the things you could count, but you're counting the T-junctions, which surely are going to see the most cars of anywhere in this estate. So what's your logic for including those as
again, it's something that we've discussed in the round through the determination of the application with Helen. We were kind of looking at, and also just to hark back to the fact that we're kind of mirroring largely the Scotia consent.
Yeah.
So we looked at that and looked at their approach, and we noticed that
that's what they did.
That's what they had done essentially. You know, they'd accounted just for some of the hard landscaping areas within that. So if they're generally low trafficked areas, will not be the higher trafficked areas that they're counted as hard landscaping in these in the round.
Yeah, okay, hard landscaping, but are you saying Scotia included T-junctions in their open space?
That's yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Excellent stuff. Quick one question for me. In Helen's presentation, you mentioned the amenity space was going to be well planted and trees and orchard. Is there any discussion with the community about taking on the running of that orchard? Because I know they're looking at doing one in Garioch. Similar sort of setup of open space with the orchard.
Is that sort of an allotment type?
Yeah, there's a good. Well, the ambitions are allotments. In the meantime, they'll take orchards.
Yeah. Nothing to date, to be honest. No one's approached us. It's something maybe open-minded about doing, but again, it comes back to our factoring arrangements. That could be something we would factor and maintain anyway. I guess the idea is that you go for a nice, lovely bimble on a summer's day and pick fruit. Maybe do a bit of light pruning.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think the idea is it's sort of a community focus, so there
Right.
might be some kind of longer term aspirations for these things.
So you'll be making contact with the community on that basis.
Yes.
As soon as.
Yeah, we have community pledge type arrangements in Gala that we give something back to the local community. So that's something that our sales and marketing team could look at.
Okay, excellent stuff. Okay, last chance for any questions. We'll let Robert go back to his seat. So thanks again for coming along.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that is there anything else that wasn't covered off? Was that it?
I think you've covered questions that were left. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can stay obviously, and we'll move on with the meeting. Can I ask Helen, is there anything you want to add on the back of what we heard there?
No, thank you, Councillor Gifford. I'm fine.
Okay. Anyone got any questions for Helen on the back of what we heard? I think again it was pretty comprehensively covered. David, was that residual?
No, it's not residual. No,
It's
it's new hand. And I mean, no disrespect to Robert at all, but just to confirm, Helen, the Scotia, the extent Scotia development approval has T-junctions as open space.
Thank you, Councillor. I did deal with the application myself a few years ago. It is a common approach by a house developer, so I have no reason to believe it did not include. Yes, it did not include them. Yes, I believe it's taken the same approach essentially.
So it's the same approach, so there is already precedent for doing this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more hands, we shall move to the debate then. But before we do, can I just check that everyone has sufficient information to determine this application in front of us? If not, stick your hand up. Seeing none, we shall move on to the debate then. We've covered a lot of ground with the questions, but open up local members first. Trevor.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing that the R2 was taken out. I didn't know anything about this because I'd have a look at the LDP and see if that's okay. But yeah, it was just, but the development itself seems quite good, very good. Yeah, so that's my opinion.
Okay. Anyone else? Local members are done with it. Anyone else want to throw in the tuppence with? It's not cheating.
Yes. I'm okay with the open space answers we've now got. We've got confirmed. And I think absolutely, you know, I think we would all welcome another 39 affordable houses in Geary. We know it's a short area. But as we all know, we are concerned in Geary about the access to GP services, especially, never mind the 20-minute neighbourhood, we're just concerned about getting in to see a GP at all. And we have at 413, the NHS, even if it's the wording we've seen before, I've never seen this in a planning application before, saying, yes, we need more physical capacity, that's a deal, get that, but actually saying we are concerned we cannot find the GPs to put in it. And at the end of the day, people go to see a GP, not a building. So I do wonder if we need to consider whether this is a material enough consideration to not approve this application. And it's the only thing I have a problem with. Everything else I'm fine with. But this one worries me, and it's worried me. It's an inventory consensus for quite a while. So I will leave see what my colleagues think.
That's maybe a question for Jill. Is that material consideration? We've never had it before.
No, maybe defer to Helen.
Wow. Helen, there's a hospital pass heading your way.
You can't get a doctor.
Yes. Go straight to A&E.
Thank you, Councillor. I think impacts on healthcare infrastructure and capacity could be considered material. But I think in itself, it's probably not the strongest sort of potential reason for refusal. And as I said, it's how can that be mitigated? The fact that we can't mitigate it through developer obligations almost infers it's not material. If you sort of see my logic, that we there's nothing we can do to solve that problem by, you know, throwing developer obligations at a sort of recruitment drive or trying to attract staff to live in this area. So healthcare infrastructure and capacity definitely is material, because obviously we're consulting the NHS, we want their views, but I think it would be quite a weak reason for refusal, given that this is also a historical allocation. It's been planned in the LDP for various iterations, plus we have an extant consent. I would suggest I would be very guarded against that as a potential reason for refusal, with all those things in the mix. It's not something I've seen before. I'm not saying it couldn't be used, but I would caution against it.
Thank you for that. Judy, Jesuit.
Microphone.
Can't hear you, Judy.
Yes, sorry, microphone. Yes, it certainly looks a very attractive development, weighing up the fact that it is it's in the LDP. It's been a long-standing proposal. It's mirroring, as we've heard, the consents that it's had before. Appreciate the R2 has been taken out for justifiable reasons. We cannot afford to have schools built that we can't then afford to run when we've got capacity elsewhere. However, my concerns are, as David has expressed, around the infrastructure capacity, particularly for healthcare, but also for the secondary schooling side of things as well. It is going to be quite transport reliant to access all these facilities, but as I say, weighing up the balance I think is swinging more in favour of approving this, because I don't know that we've got a strong enough reason not to approve it. But certainly just I'm concerned about the infrastructure capacity and the impact. And I'm sure as the development evolves, that 20-minute neighbourhood and living well locally element will evolve as well as a community grows, opportunities for businesses grow and so on as well, and providing services. So on that basis, I'm sort of swinging towards the approving it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor Longchy, Dominic.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, I don't think that something which has been approved in the past should automatically be approved today. That's my point of view. Secondly, Councillor Keating, do you want to put your concerns into a motion?
I'm going to hear the rest of the debate, if I may, Dominic. Because
Yeah,
I do
okay.
recognise the points that Judy's made.
Yeah, all right. Well, okay, well, this site has been considered under development for a long, long time. So at some point, we will need to do something with it. Now, as some colleagues have expressed concern, is this in front of us considered suitable today? I'll wait to see the rest of the debate as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Seeing other hands going up, so I suppose I can put my tuppence worth in. I mean, this has been around for a long time. It was been discussed, I think, probably when we moved up here, and that's well over 30 years ago. So it's been a long time coming, and I think we've seen all 3, if not 4 phases of housing on the other side of the village materialise, been brought forward and finished in the same time. So it's good to see it progressing. It has been locked in the plan for a long time, and the confusion over R2 has not helped with this final stage of things. But I think it's a good use of the site. It would be good to see the whole thing brought forward, 1, 2 and 3 together, because I think the village would benefit from that circular path around the King Seat Road, down Station Road, as a circular walking route, which just now you have to cross the road, go into the Martin Buchan Way, cross back over again to get back to the village, which is, it's not the most busy road, but it's not ideal. And I think in terms of Judy's point about 20-minute neighbourhoods, when this is finished and we have these connecting pavements and connecting footbridges, it'll be a well-connected part of the village, probably better so than the furthest bits of Corstook that's coming forward at the moment. So I'm pretty content to see this coming forward. The concerns that folk have, and they're absolutely rock solid concerns about medical facilities, what have you, are, as we've heard from Helen, really something that we can't do anything about. It's not our bailiwick to provide doctors. All we can do is make sure they have the facilities, and they tell us they do. And the fact that if empty consulting rooms is the big frustration, and the bit we would love to do something about, but I'm not sure the planning system is the place to do it in. So I think, in balance of everything we've seen coming forward, I think this is a good development, good use of the land, and I would be happy for it to go forward as the delegated grant that we're being asked to look at. So, any other comments, thoughts? Oh, Councillor Keating. I was about to ask if anything's a motion.
Well, no, I'm going to say I don't, because I think your arguments and Judy's arguments are good. I do think we are putting houses up where we're just putting more and more pressure on GPs, which is just not helping retention of GPs, never mind addition. But I do take Helen's very diplomatic language about the likelihood of success, and recognising if we were to go to a reporter and lose, it would be extra cost for Aberdeenshire Council. I think we would need to have something. I need to feel we had a stronger position than we have, albeit the language in 413 is a lot better than we've seen in the past from NHS Grampian, which has simply just said, oh, we have capacity. And as Jim has so adequately put it, yes, you can come and look at our lovely empty consulting room, which doesn't help you if you've got a medical crisis. But no, on balance, as I say, everything else about this application I'm completely content with, and we do want the affordable housing. So whilst I would like to see something recognising the difficulty and lack of availability of GPs, and the NHS have certainly pointed towards at this time, I will take the view, I think, as Judy and Jim and Helen have effectively said, that it's not a strong enough objection at the moment to reject this, and as I say, everything else I like. So I shall not put a motion forward, Jim.
Okay, that's quite clear. Thank you. Is anyone else wishing to put forward a motion on this application? Councillor Launchy, Garioch.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. After the eloquent arguments put by Councillor Keating, I will agree with him and with everybody else. Yes, I believe we should accept this application.
Okay, thank you. Anyone with a contrary view? No, in that case, then we will approve this as a delegate grant. Alice, you got
Can I just double check? There was a change to condition 2.P.6.
10.102P6.
Yes. Do you want that included? It's literally to add in the clarity that it was relating to the biodiversity enhancement plan. That's all that it was.
If that's what it is, yes. I must admit, I couldn't see that's what it was doing, but if Helen just gets a delegated grant to go and do that, I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
we're just checking.
We're all happy with that?
Yep.
We're
Okay.
shouting it out. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Alison, you want to read through what we've just done?
I mean, but those that are interested in this application, the committee have agreed to delegate the grant to the head of planning and economy, subject to the matters stated in the recommendation and the conditions detailed, with the amendment to clarify 10.2.P.6.
Trips off the tongue.
10.12.
Oh, stop it.
Chair, also, the committee would agree the reason for departing.
Yes.
from
Yes.
the, development plan. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for keeping us right. So that application is agreed as a delegated grant. Can I also, just a thought occurred as we were speaking there, on the NHS stuff. Is it within the gift of this committee to write to the NHS and say, you know, we're tripping over this every time, we're about to no doubt have it at Cricky in the not too distant future, exactly the same discussion. The NHS tell us they're fine, they're clearly not, because nobody can get an appointment for weeks if they phone up, if they can get through on the phone. And we'll go through the LDP process just now, potentially allocating gazillions of sites if they're all brought forward, which makes the matter even more acute.
GP practices are independent from NHS, though, are they?
They're all individual businesses. The NHS go with contracts.
Yeah, they're all the contracts that come to the primary care team at NHS.
Okay, so do you want that to be?
Would the committee be willing for us to do that? I think, you know, we keep talking about it and doing nothing about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not related, it wouldn't be directly related to plan application.
Just
It would be a separate matter that would come in addition.
it's a matter that was arisen.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't see. My hands have all disappeared.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, I mean, I was wondering whether that brought up. There is a connection to the planning application. Effectively, you know, this is approved, phase one's approved, and they've got notice now in terms of that coming through, and they'll be looking at the build out rates, they'll be able to do some planning. We know that it's the NHS's responsibility around recruitment. So, I mean,
But it wouldn't be a subject to it, it
No.
wouldn't be a delegated matter, it would
No,
be
no.
a separate
No,
matter
not part of
out
the
with the
planning.
recommendations, what's
It's
saying.
not part of the planning application. It would be a discussion that the committee would ask me to go and coordinate and feedback to the chair and vice in terms of writing to NHS granting.
It's a matter of community concern.
Yeah.
You just cannot get doctors, and the situation is going to get worse.
So does the committee wish to instruct Anne to write on behalf of the committee then?
I'd be happy
Yes.
to do that.
In consultation with the chair and vice.
Consultation with chair and vice.
Okay,
Everyone happy with that?
Yes, agreed.
Okay, excellent. Very close to the time. We've got two possibly very short items to now follow.
can we suspend standing orders, chair?
I'll just we have to order this.
Come on, it's nothing, is it?
I've only
Sorry.
been doing this for 19 years. Give us a break.
There you go, 1 minute.
Yeah. So can we suspend standing orders and progress with these last two items on the agenda, and then we can all have a well undressed and nice.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very
Get
much.
hot outside.
Get hot in here.
In that case, we are moving on to item 8, Landscape Services Works Programme 26-27, and we have Sandy Scott. I see you lurking on the screen, Sandy. Good afternoon. So do you want to just lead us through your report?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon, councillors. Thank you for inviting me to committee today to present the 26-27 Landscape Services Annual Non-Routine Work Programme. I've got Ian Mitchell, LSO for Geary, with me along here today as well. So in Landscape Services, the available resources for the 26-27 Annual Work Programme does provide a more challenging environment for delivery of some of the maintenance activities than in previous years. The service is continuing to consider opportunities to assist, and indeed a predominant move through budget savings mitigation to work with local community groups and the delivery of some of these works, where the groups have got the capacity to do so. And as a service, we continue to work within the resource that we have. Landscape Services engage with over 145 community groups and individuals, all wanting to enhance their areas. And in Geary alone, their services engage with 23 local groups, some of which are award-winning under the Beautiful Scotland campaigns. And I'm very proud to be part of that. And I've actually been asked to judge Blackburn Best Garden competition this year as well. So that's quite an honour as well for me personally. I'm pleased to be here this afternoon to seek approval for the Landscape Services Work Programme, as mentioned earlier, for the Geary area. Following the budget setting at full council on 27th of February, landscape teams have developed the proposals outlined in Appendix 1. The report sets out a range of works and activities for the coming year, many of which will reflect the ongoing engagement with local members, communities and stakeholders. The plan provides a balance between the needs of the users who have a variety of interests in our local parks, open spaces, including the enhancement and improvement of areas for biodiversity, and the opportunities that exist to protect and maximise the public pound. As members will know, Aberdeenshire Council Pollinator Action Plan aims for at least 10% of public green space to be enhanced and managed for pollinators, and work is ongoing through our green space officers, not only to confidently demonstrate that the target has been reached, but to advise members when that calculations have been achieved. And I firmly believe that we have achieved those calculations. In addition to the Works programme, the service has been allocated funding from Scottish Government for the renewal and improvement of play equipment and parks. And I'm pleased to advise members that that procurement of equipment and improvements for the Geary area has been successful indeed. Appendix 2 shows comparisons of spend across the 6 areas for the current year. And this is for the current year, and all budget allocation will be reviewed to ensure they're appropriate for the needs of the communities and proportionate. Thank you, Chair. That's my introduction. I'm happy to take any questions members have, and thank you for inviting me to make this presentation this afternoon.
Oh, you're both very welcome indeed. Apologies, Ian, if I missed you being on the screen as well, so welcome. No, thanks for that introduction, Sandy. Any questions from anybody on the work plan? Who's all right, Judy?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted firstly to acknowledge the work that has gone on, the work that you do, both Sandy, Andy and other people on the team who work so well with the community. And I know you give up a lot of your own time personally as well to support the communities that you live in as well. Really just to acknowledge the budgetary constraints and offer some acknowledgement and praise for what you are able to achieve within those tight budgets. And I have to say, driving through Inverurie at the moment, particularly going out onto the A96 down at Port Elphinston, that wildflower display with the poppies is just absolutely stunning. And I think as time goes on, the public are beginning to understand that these areas that sometimes maybe look a little bit unkempt for a short period of time do come into flower and really do enhance the area. So I think we're seeing the benefit of that commitment to the biodiversity and the green space starting to come through, which is making it easier. But really just, you know, acknowledging the challenges that you've got. It's not easy. I know when you know, we still see weeds and things coming up, and that causes it. But I think over time, people are understanding that there is a little bit more they can do for themselves. I didn't pick up, Sandy, how many groups you said that you were working with, but really the question is, are there any constraints, or is there anything that would help to move any of that work forward, to encourage more groups to get involved, or to help sustain them? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Do you want me to come back in on that?
Yes, there's correct on Sandy.
Thank you, Councillor White, for that. Yes, we've got 23 local groups within the Geary area, and they range from working with the Scouts in West Hill, for example, through to the bigger groups, such as Kemney and Inverurie, for example, as well. So we do interact already, and what I'm looking to do and what the service is looking to do is build on that really good initiatives that we do have with communities. What I've been doing is I've been going around some of the community councils. Elected member support has been absolutely fantastic in supporting us through the community councils, and actually taking a different view on how we actually deliver some of our services. We are working less with less, sort of thing. We are managing to achieve so much of the work, but we are working less with less. So it is really important for us that that enhancement that communities bring is tapped into even more. And myself and the service, we're open for business, and I think I've maybe said that at committee before. So I'm very lucky to be personally, you know, incoming chair for the local Rotary group at Inverurie, and I've got very strong ties with West Hill, and I said Blackburn as well. So I think within the Geary area, there is a lot of groups doing a lot of things, and I would commend that as a way forward. And Kintore has been a really good example over the last couple of years as well. So I'll stop waffling, Chair, and you know, hopefully that's answered your question, Councillor White.
No, it's far from waffling. Only go, Judy.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was just to sort of pick up on that, you know, that opportunity exists for officers to come in and speak with community groups and support them along the journey that they may be taken to establish, you know, and as you say, there's some really good examples across the Geary area of where others have done it. These are the sorts of things that get talked about at community council forums as well, where people can get that extra support. And I don't know if there is a forum of such for some of these enhancement groups, but maybe that's something that could be looked at. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. David.
Thank you, Jim. I think I'll be very, very quick because I think Judy has managed to cover just about everything I was going to say. But I am, as I'm sure you're all aware, I am your trustee. I'm the council trustee on the Uri Riverside Park. So I guess my first observation would be on 3.5, you know, increases in decline of natural species. Well, if I've understood all the committee meetings correctly, there's a complete reversal. They're actually getting more natural species and they're regenerating the whole area. Which leads me to the thought, and it's very, and by the way, yes, absolutely thank you to the service, because I know you turn up and you really help the park succeed, and I think it is succeeding. But it does lead to the thought, I think Judy was very much on this as well, which is if local groups with enthusiastic volunteers can actually reverse these things, and recognising budgets ain't going to get any bigger anytime soon, can we do more to encourage more local groups? And I'm going to say it this way, to do perhaps some slightly bigger things, because as I say, I think Uri Riverside Park, might as well give them a positive plug here, are doing a great job. And I think it is actually addressing some of the concerns in 3.5. That's all I was going to say, not even a question.
Okay.
Or a very small question.
Could I maybe just make comment there, Chair? Thank you. Thank you for that, both councillors there, for that support. It is really important to us as a service, for sure. What I'm really proud to be part of that Uri Riverside Park initiative, where I've went and planted trees there myself as part of a community tree planting, and it's just went from strength to strength. It's an amazing park, probably the biggest biodiverse meadow that we have next to, or probably in line with, Houghton Country Park. And the species within there, be very careful, as you'll know this yourself, Councillor, to do species of planting that is very much predominant to this area. And I think by that alone, it does help that regeneration of species that are predominantly should be in this area, rather than the trend that was some years ago about bringing in species out with this area. So absolutely, and fantastic, Uri Riverside Park, one of our 3 Green Flag Award parks, the other 2 being Aden and Haddo. So all credit to the Community Council, the groups that work there, and I can only see that going forward even more, and it's certainly part of the Inverurie Environmental Improvement Group's campaign, or within the campaign that they are in Beautiful Scotland. That park is part of that tour, so it's just really fantastic with the work that's been done there. Thank you.
Yep, I don't agree with that. As a regular user of the Uri Park, it's quite amazing. You go not that far from pretty busy roads, and all you can hear is birdsong. It's a fantastic place. Yes, that's great. One slight negative note, Sandy and team. Last year there was huge praise in Newmarket for the wildflower beds down the side of the 947 as you were heading out the village towards Dice. They seem to have just disappeared. I don't know what happened, whether it's just the timing of the cut was wrong or the plants didn't take or something. I was past the other day and it's just scorched there. I don't know what's happened.
Okay. I'll maybe ask Ian Mitchell to come in there, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Chair and local councillors. The area around Melton Drive, you class on to Hilbury Way, has been scorched a bit. So we've had to reseed some of the areas there. It's the bus stop, just to try and regenerate the plant as well. There's a lot of weed growth within it, a lot of dockings and stuff as well. So we had to spray out some of the docking areas and regenerate the seed to try and make it grow a bit more this year.
Right. No, just after that fantastic flush of growth last year, you were hoping it would just keep going, and obviously it hasn't. But okay,
yeah,
we'll look forward to next year then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anne, what's going?
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to Councillor Keating's question about what more can be done in terms of encouraging groups, and I think there's multiple things that can be done. You're all out there speaking to your community councils, working with your groups. If you hear a sniff of anything, please refer them to me, to Susan Adams, and indeed to Sandy and his team as well, and we can have a conversation. I'm taking every opportunity when I do engage with community groups, community councils, and they come to me about landscape services matter. The question is, well, what would you like to do to help? And we need to convert that. And we do have, we call it fill your boots, a bit tongue in cheek, but we have that kind of process which we want to reduce bureaucracy and barriers, and we want to have those conversations with communities. So we're all up for a conversation. If you hear about that as elected members, please refer them in, and we are actively, having those conversations as well as officers.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I'm seeing no other hands up, so it's been a long morning for us, Sandy, so people are maybe just keen to get going. So thank you both for coming in. I mean, it was said by others earlier on, it's remarkable what you're able to do with the budget that's shrinking and has shrunk for years and years and years. But there's still a service being provided, and it's a pretty good service in many respects. But Ian, you want to come back in?
Yeah, just say with the local groups we've got 23 right across the Gear area at the moment, they're doing a lot of different village improvements, green space initiative programs as well, along with a green space officer, and it's looking well to enhance a lot of the different areas and the people that's doing the work within the groups, whether it's scout groups, brownies guides, local community groups who's doing the work across the Gear area and the wider Aberdeenshire council areas. It's great to see the enhancement that's happening within the groups, the people that's in the it's a neighbourhood through the beautiful Scotland, the people that's moving into the bigger, wider beautiful Scotland awards and taking on a bigger step, getting gold awards, maybe getting highly commended awards for different aspects across our communities. And the support we get from all local councillors right across the Aberdeenshire Landscape Services area, it's much appreciated from me for being part of the brewery stuff in a whole and the Gear area itself, and working alongside local councillors and local elected members. It's been beneficial for me for the last 11 years I've been in post.
Okay, thanks for that, Ian. Yeah, there's some tremendous work goes on all day, every day, but so many people. It's all may it continue. So thanks again both for coming along.
Can we take you back to the reps, Chair?
Oh, if you must. Yes, we've been asked to approve the work plan for this year. I can get cursor onto the right screen. Recommend to approve the proposals for allocating revenue budget as detailed Appendix 1 within the Gear area for landscape services and bereavement services. All content to do that. Very approval.
Yeah.
Yes, Chair. Yeah. Normal answer. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks again, guys. Leave you in peace. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors.
That brings us to the end of our public business today. I can confirm that public sections of the meeting are now concluded and that the recording will be stopped. Thank you for your interest in our business. Members of the committee will now go on to consider exempt or confidential business without the press and public present. Empty the public galleries.